All right, I'm going to chop a massive hole in this thing. Let me explain. Just behind me, you can see the massive steel post that is holding up the shed. That thing is 140 millimeters deep. That is obviously preventing the desk from actually moving back towards the wall by that much, which in this small space, that is a lot of space. That is a lot of extra walkway, which I actually got the place where my walkways are looking pretty walkable. Before I accepted this desk, I took all the measurements knowing that the only way possible was that this desk is going to have a cutout, which you can see in my SketchUp plans, or I already started to think about that. Even the drawer. Now, I'm not going to talk about the big drawer. So I've got to cut that out, slide it back in. Now this desk is always going to be a shed desk. With a drawer under it, it's not ideal as a sitting desk because you've got that much below the surface, unless you're on a slightly super low chair or something, but it's not practical to be down that low. And it will probably always end up in some sort of sheddy office space, nerd room. I don't know. I'm just spitballing future cool things. So I will cut that thing out. In the future, that hole, if I have a flat wall and it's not a big deal, that hole, I'm sort of picturing something that can then have a little, I don't know, something. What are we going to call that? A little shelf up here that is on a center pillar or pedestal. Okay? Anyway, future problem. Total future problem. The other thing is, the footprint of the feet is actually broader than this desk. I've lined this shed with melamine, bits of ply, whatever. I've actually got to chop out a little hole where those feet go to let me push the desk further up against the wall, which is a little bit of a dick around, but again, every little bit counts, you know. All right. So, past Dainsy thought it'd be a good idea to put a piece of pallet wood in there to keep this from getting kicked in. That one lifts up. That one over there is a little bit more of a pain in the ass, so just got to crowbar those out the way and we should be good. Okay, with those two little notches cut out, holes in the walls, desk is against the wall, happy days. Let me just quickly give you a recap. This is me in the last video realizing that I accidentally bought push to open drawer slides, and at the time I thought, well, these would be cool, and then I worked through all the processes and problems that came along with it, and I probably should have not used them in the first place. Anyway, I also just want to quickly touch on how I made the drawers. I didn't go into it in the last video, but this is a technique that I like to use. I like using the form ply. You can use any ply, of course, but I have flat tooth grind blades in the shop, which just lets you whip off a little rebate. One, it gives you a nice gluing surface, but the other thing it does, it lets you reference your board straight up against it. It makes glue ups easy. It also makes getting your drawer super square. This little technique here, I'm doing the same thing to whip off that little rebate. That second piece of wood helps it keep it square and safe and fingers well clear. What I will be using in the future is probably this. This is the Barbers Paddock Woodworking tenon jig or joinery jig. It does a million things. I'm going to talk about it heaps in my next video, which is the deck chair, which is that big chunk of wood I'm chopping up right there. It's amazing. Go check him out on his website, Barbers Paddock Woodworking. If you want to buy those plans, they're only $15, and it's amazing. It's really cool. Okay, back to the drawer. That's pretty much it. It's glue and screws. That's what I like to do. I've got that nice clean edge there. It really does, like I said, it really does help bring the drawer together perfect every time. What's not perfect every time is when you miss and you put a ding with your drill bit. Moving on. Anyway, a nice gluing surface and the screws. It's a super strong solution, very much appropriate for the shop furniture. You can choose where you would obviously like to do it. The other thing with form ply is just breaking the edge with your block plane. Makes you feel good on the inside. So here is the drawer. Obviously, the biggest drama with this is it was way too broad, even though the slides and everything was made pretty bloody good. They just get this wobble up, and that would stop the thing just sliding in and out nicely. So ideally, these drawer sides probably only want small drawers. And you can see all the other stuff that I had to do. Had to remove material everywhere on the drawer fronts to let them do that push to release motion. Again, it was a cool idea. Whether that was the best decision, because I've got all this other trimming where everything's got to line up perfectly when it's shut. So in hindsight, probably not. So no big deal. I'm going to salvage the drawer front. I've got to find a handsaw and chop these because at the moment I've got 2mm gaps on both ends. I don't want to put a 2 times 3mm kerf cuts because those gaps are going to be bigger. So I can keep this cuts down as small as possible. Then I can try and work on being as precise as possible for these drawer fronts, just as a bit of a skills test, I suppose. Okay, so again, just saving that 140mm. I've got this much more open walkway now. Although the thicknesser is now living in this corner, getting it through there was a bit of a squeeze. You end up just banging things and whatever. It's nice to be able to move around my center table saw island pretty much everywhere now, and I've got heaps of space, especially this one. This is the most open now. That all came about because I completely did a 180 with my table saw. Again, sometimes you got to flip your shop on its head to realize that you've actually got better space. I think sometimes we've got to get out of our own way. Okay, quick look under here. So up here we have these drawer supports that are hanging off the rails underneath the bench. So they are still going to be good. I probably need to get some sort of bottom on this now. I'm thinking traditional drawers. Press fit, I'm going to do away with this caper. That just loses a lot of space now when I want 3 drawers. So I've got to do a bit of brain work to figure this next bit out. I haven't drawn this up in SketchUp at all. Alrighty, underneath here, so real estate is of the primo. You got the lower level of the drawer here, and then this carcass underneath here is only just slightly above, and that is form ply is going to poke out the bottom, and I'm trying to avoid that. So ideally I want the bottom of this carcass level with this. So I'm going to whip off a little rebate from these so that it can be glued and screwed up. Now I've only got scraps of form ply, so I'm going to make up whatever I can to get this framework base in here before I then figure out how I'm going to put in some of these dividers, how it's going to hang from the middle, all these extra bits and pieces. Now all this framework, they're all different dimensions, different widths. Nothing's probably going to work with a nice even set of drawers. So I'm just going to work my way through that, see what I can do with the scraps I've got. I basically got a couple of pieces of form ply. I have some of this leftover melamine MDF particle board stuff, and hiding over there is a sheet of 3mm ply, which if I can make a nice carcass, I can lay that on top and the drawers can slide in and out of that. I won't lose a heap of depth for the actual drawer, because I still have to allow for motors and etc underneath there. So the drawers will be shallow. I can still put bigger things in them, but the drawers themselves can't be much deeper than that. You can see the motor hiding behind there. Now, similar to my table saw, I'm using the technique of another piece of wood to help me push the stock through to clear this rebound. One thing I haven't done yet is put a miter track in for my router table. I think that'll be a little handy inclusion. But again, I've also got the Barbers Paddock Woodworking joinery jig, which I could probably do that super simple right now. I'm going to keep banging on about it because I want to push people to buy his plans, because Anthony sent me that prototype for free. It was $80 in postage, and I want to at least try and push 4 people to buy his plan. That's only $60. 8 people, and then I can sleep better at night. Right, back to my project. So I've run out of material. I don't want to use a whole sheet of form ply, so I'm going to use all these scraps up. I cleaned off the edge to get a nice gluing surface. It's also going to reduce the weight in total of this little desk lifty uppy downy thing, because it is going to start to fill up with tools and projects, etc, etc. And I do have a plan for this other drawer. It doesn't get used in this video, but I think I'm going to hang it underneath what I'm doing here, just to give myself a nice big open drawer for panels or thin sheet supply, whatever. I think it will be handy, but I'll get back to that. Okay, I am using up as many scraps and things as possible. This is my redundant wedgie sled. One, it doesn't suit my table saw anymore, and the other thing is I'm going to sell my wood lathe, so I'm not going to be making wedgies. It is a handy jig for other things, but I'm going to remake all my jigs for this saw pretty soon. So that's the reason. I'm also going to take off the form ply because it was a little bit covered in glue and unevenness that I didn't want to get the drawers catching on. And I mean, look at that. It looks way better than form ply. So, but that side's much better. But no one's going to see it, so it doesn't really matter. Right. So here is my little do-it-yourself, make your own piece of form ply. Again, unless you look underneath, you can't see the carnage. I did have to do some pocket holes. Now, because this is all made after the fact, I had to pocket hole the two dividers to the roof of the desk and then do my best to square everything up to make sure that these drawers slide in and out parallel. So that was the biggest issue. I'm just doing a couple of experiments, have a bit of a fluff around out here. I thought that these little slides might be something worth trying. I've just used a cove bit or a tray bit and the matching round over to make those little doodads. Now, this is probably cool if I had several drawers sort of hanging on a slide. Maybe, I don't 100% know. It's probably unnecessary in these. I think I can just make some that are pressed to fit, or you know, a fly's dick of space in there so they can't wobble left and right. I'm not 100% sure where these would have their best use, other than doing the woodworky goodness of it. Like, it's kind of cool, but that's the only reason I can think of at the moment. So I don't think I'll do that. It's good to just fluff around sometimes, have a bit of a spell and try some stuff. Slow things down out here a bit. Quick little blab. This is the piece that was on the original large drawer. So this bottom piece of trim would actually come out with the drawer, but would line up over here. One of my gaps, which was a bit disappointing, this little U piece here actually slipped slightly left on the clamp up, which then made that gap look a bit bigger where everything else was looking nice. I'm going to go away from the fake trim. I've got another piece that I can flash up to actually get into the bottom here and close that gap completely, and this bit will stay in position. I've got some height issues, and I've also got to be able to get this thing glued on there. So I need to build this up a little bit more. So this level, the drawers obviously got to be able to pull out. That's the first issue, as well as have my nice 2mm gap. So I've got to probably think about it a bit better. But I think what I did buy recently was one of these drawer pull router bits. It's pretty chunky. Bear with me because I'm literally making stuff up on the fly here, because I want this trim to be solid all the way around and I don't want to lose too much drawer depth. I still don't have an answer. I don't think routering out a finger pull space is the answer just yet, but because you would actually see the ply behind the fake trim here. So we've got an issue. We've got a big issue. Let me keep thinking. 7mm ply. This is the lower edge of the trim face. Now that actually lines up perfectly with that 7mm ply. The only disadvantage is I've now lost another 7mm of drawer space, but it's not a huge deal. It's mainly where the motors are. So there's a small side over here of drawer space, and then there's a normal depth over there. I don't mind slim drawers anyway, because they're good just for laying in tools and things, and you can actually see everything's in the drawer. So that's probably not a problem. So I might just cut some strips, put those on the edges, and that's what the drawer slide can slide out on. Beef up my new trimming, figure out how the hell I'm gonna glue that on there. Like there's a fair distance to bridge there. I can't put anything under it because it'll start looking a bit Frankenstein. Might be able to get away with it. Let's have a bash. I'm going to make drawers a few different ways in this video. The 3 new spaces, I'm going to use the same technique as the big black drawer, cutting the recesses. Now I can measure off the bottom piece so it is pretty much a perfect fit with only the slightest little left and right wobble, so it can allow for a little bit of movement, seizing up, etc. in the future. The other 2 drawers, I'll do one with a laser cutter and I'll do the other with the CNC. They are those 2 little side wing drawers. Anyway, so again, I'm cutting the rebate with the table saw with the flat tooth grind. Now, this is all good and it's pretty simple and easy to set up, but I think in the future I'll probably switch this technique for the small parts, these big parts, table saw. I'll take the small parts over to the Barbers Paddock, these parts right here, over to his 10-inning jig to get those cut. The other good thing about his 10-inning jig is the micro adjuster. It's absolutely amazing for making micro adjustments. Anyway, he's got 2 videos on his channel. Go and check them out. And look, plans available. You can buy them, $15. Right, let's glue these drawers up. Again, you got the little rebates. It does make everything nice and easy. Just a little bit of glue. Everything sort of holds itself into its exact position. And then you can clamp things down in whatever means you have at your disposable. What I do recommend is get yourself some band clamps. These things here, they have proven themselves to be so handy, versatile. It pulls everything in perfectly square for you. It's a magical thing. They are going to be the hero in my next video as well. That's coming. The deck chair, it's coming, I promise. Okay, this is the laser cut drawer, and as you can see, looking very charcoal because I haven't used it in a while and it was a little bit burny, but even with the settings required, it still charcoals the charcoal out of it. Again, I used a band clamp, which is great. Now this one I had to make in 2 separate boxes to get the depth I need for that big side drawer, which is 600 millimeters deep. And that's just a limitation of the laser itself, but no big deal. Okay, drawers are going in. They're all parallel, smooth, love it, perfect. They've all gone to plan, happy days. Moving on to the drawer fronts. Again, this was a bit of a mission. I wanted to make sure that there was very even gaps throughout. That was the goal here. So taking my time with the spaces, working from left to right. I did have to remove some more material, even though I cut it with a handsaw. By the time I get over to the right, there's literally 0 space left. So I did very much take my time, and I honestly thought I'd nailed this spacing wise, which I'm going to get to shortly. I'm shaking my head. You can't see me because I'm talking on a microphone, but I'm shaking my head. Now the other bonus of this is I could literally reach behind and press the drawer forward onto that double-sided tape, and voila, the drawer is in the perfect position. Perfect. Check it out. Look at it. It's going to come out. Nothing goes wrong. Love it. Put the screws in. Desk is just doing its own thing at the moment. Maybe I should turn the desk off. Why does that drop down like 2 millimeters? Right, so I'm not 100% sure how that has dropped down to touch the bottom trimming here. This double-sided tape is so sticky. I'm going to take out the left screw and just raise it. Hopefully the tape will hold it in position and I can get it back with my spacers. They're actually a little bit lower than I want anyway, so this could be a lot more fluffing than anticipated, but that's all right. I've got all day. This is the drawer stopper. Okay, this drawer's not as deep, so we'll come back to that one. Alright, this is my first attempt at a CNC cut drawer with the dog bones, so it all just slots in together. It allows for the diameter of the bit, and I'm just going to put it out there and say, oh, this is
a very cool way to make drawers if you've got a CNC, obviously. The company that I use is CNC 3D. They provided me that CNC way back. I made a few videos for them, but I do like to just give them a shout out. They're an Aussie company. The customer service is amazing. They always help me out. And if you are in the market for a CNC, why don't you go and check out the purple machines? The QB2 is the one I have.
What is it hitting? What is it hitting, man? Oh! Oh my god. Alright. This one's an easy fix. I've just got to remove the part, so the middle drawer's got its own stopper anyway. I can just move a piece of this form plate back here and we're good. Alright. Only job left now is I'm just going to go and buy some little handles. I did look at some finger pull options. I actually bought a router bit that does the nice finger pulls, but because of the depth of these plus the different types of drawers, it was probably going to get a bit weird, so I'm going to save that for another project. So I just got to clean it up with a bit of finish, sand off where I missed with the saw. Now the only thing that is sort of boggling my mind is I used the handsaw to cut these curves. I worked my way along with all the exact same 2mm spacings, but some of the gaps are a little bit big. Now that one there, this one up here, just a little bit. We're talking 3mm. So I'm not 100% sure. Like, surely this thing hasn't shrunk just today. I mean, I don't know a lot about wood movement, but that seems a little crazy. So, but possibly, I don't know. It doesn't matter. There's a couple of drawers sitting proud. I can clean those off if I want to. I actually took these drawers off and ran the back of the drawer through the table saw after I just had to chop that little notch out so the thing could slide back. Where I then screwed on the stoppers was actually pushing out one side, so I just whipped off the back of the drawer and that's neatened it up. So, I mean, I'm pretty happy. I've got 5 great drawers now. I can't open them because there's no drawer pulls. So, these are all quite shallow, which sort of suits them to being tools or the like. I'm not going to overly fill them up, but it is just nice to start to get things in drawers. I'm not a big fan of putting stuff all over the walls because dust it's a nightmare in here, and I do try and control it, so I'd rather just get things in a nice spot eventually. One day I'll use a CNC and I'll do some tool drawer cutouts and that sort of stuff. But at the moment it's a cool piece of shed furniture. It's over the top, but obviously I make things for video, and this one got a full video and now it's getting a second video on what you've just watched. So hopefully you get something out of it. I've had a really enjoyable woodworking time, and I have really slowed things down out here to try and tidy up little things. I don't get disappointed. It's all learning for me. But that's why I'm not selling this as a piece of furniture. It's for me. So all those little things is what I would want to get better at before putting big price tags on furniture that I might want to sell in the future. Anyway, so this is the level. If I was going to bust down a massive sheet of ply, I can now push it right through. And again, the next project is all that pine you've seen sitting on top here. I'm going to stick that back up there so that I keep the workbench clear. So that's the plan. With stuff on top here, I obviously can lower it right down. So all that stock that was stacked up nice and high, oh, she's coming up again. I can get that below the surface of my table saw if I need to rip big long bits of timber, which given I've got all this timber, which is not here anymore, it's just there, I'll be able to do that. So, how good. It's pretty cool. I mean, it is pretty cool. So, happy days. All right, I'm actually going this time. See you later.